The distress beacon had been broadcasting for 17 years, 4 months, and 6 days before anyone responded. A simple SOS, primitive by galactic standards, pulsing from the damaged freighter Helios Dawn as it drifted in the void between the Cygnus Arm and the Perseus Transit. Inside its cryo chambers, the crew of 38 humans slept, unaware that their emergency signal was considered little more than background noise by the thousands of vessels that passed within range. Until the day Commander Vrisk of the Aelari Exploration Fleet detected it. "What is that primitive squawking?" Vrisk's sensory membranes fluttered with irritation as the signal penetrated the serene atmosphere of the command deck. "Silence it immediately." Lieutenant Marine's 6-fingered hands danced across the holographic interface. "It appears to be a distress beacon, Commander. Origin unknown." Unknown. Vrisk's crest rose in surprise. "How can it be unknown? Every spacefaring species in the Conclave has registered communication protocols." "That's just it, sir." Marine's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's not Conclave standard. The signature suggests a species we haven't encountered." The bridge fell silent. In the 3,000 years since the formation of the Galactic Conclave, no new spacefaring species had been discovered. The notion was as thrilling as it was terrifying. "Prepare boarding." "Protocols," Vrisk ordered finally. "Full biohazard containment. Whatever species sent this signal, they're clearly primitive. This could be first contact or merely the recovery of derelict technology." The Aelari vessel, sleek and iridescent like a massive dragonfly, adjusted course and accelerated toward the source of the signal. As they approached, scanners revealed a crude metal vessel, its hull pitted by micrometeorite impacts and discolored by radiation exposure. "Life signs?" Vrisk demanded. "Inconclusive," Marine replied. "There are energy readings consistent with some form of stasis technology, but our scanners can't penetrate the hull materials effectively." Commander Vrisk made a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. "Bring it aboard." Hours. Later in the quarantine bay, Aelari scientists gathered around the human vessel. Their translucent protective suits glimmered under the harsh lights as they studied the alien craft. "The technology is crude but ingenious," Chief Scientist Loven observed, running a scanner over the ship's hull. "And look at this. The propulsion system appears to use primitive nuclear fission combined with ion acceleration. Remarkable that it achieved interstellar travel at all." "What about occupants?" Vrisk asked from his observation platform above the bay. "We've detected 38 organic entities in suspended animation," Loven replied. "Bipedal, endoskeletal, carbon-based. Similar to several conclave species in basic morphology, but..." He paused as his scanner pinged. "Commander, you need to see this." Vrisk descended to the quarantine floor. Loven directed his attention to the scanner readings. "These beings evolved on a death world," Loven whispered, awe and horror mingling in his voice. Vrisk's membrane fluttered in disbelief. "Impossible." "The evidence is conclusive. Bone density, muscle mass, organ redundancy. Their homeworld must have at least twice standard gravity, significant radiation levels, and a highly competitive ecosystem. No known sentient species could evolve under such conditions." As if responding to their discovery, the ship's systems suddenly hummed to life. Cryogenic pods began their awakening sequence, their frost-covered windows slowly clearing to reveal the sleeping faces of humanity. "Alert security," Vrisk ordered. "If these are truly Deathworlders, we need to proceed with extreme caution." Inside her cryopod, Flight Engineer Kaida Novak's eyes snapped open, consciousness returning after 17 years of dreamless sleep. Through the clearing frost, she saw strange, insectoid figures surrounding the Helios Dawn, and her heart rate-spiked first contact. After all these years adrift, humanity had finally encountered alien life. She had no way of knowing that the Aelari's discovery would set in motion a chain of events that would ignite a galactic war with humanity. Caught at its center, the language barrier fell quickly. The Aelari's translation matrices were sophisticated enough to decipher human speech patterns within hours of first communication. What proved more difficult was bridging the cultural chasm. You're saying you deliberately sent your people into the void with no destination? Vrisk's voice translated through the quarantine field, his mandibles clicking with what Kaida recognized as disbelief. The Helios Dawn was an exploration vessel, Captain Razvan Vasiliev explained patiently. His weathered face showed the strain of unexpected awakening from cryo-sleep. We were mapping potential exoplanets for colonization when our drive system suffered a catastrophic failure. Colonization. Vrisk repeated the word as if tasting something bitter. You left your homeworld to claim others? The 38 crew members of the Helios Dawn had been gathered in a massive quarantine chamber. Despite being rescued, they couldn't shake the feeling they were prisoners. Transparent barriers separated them from their Aelari hosts and security. Drones hovered at strategic positions. It's not conquest, Dr. Alara Matsuo, the mission's xenobiologist, interjected. Earth, our homeworld, is overcrowded. We seek uninhabited planets suitable for human life. Vrisk and his officers exchanged glances that transcended species barriers. They were clearly troubled. In the conclave, Marine explained gently, planets are sacred entities. They are not claimed or owned. They are stewarded by those species evolutionarily adapted to their conditions. And yet you've brought us aboard without consent. Navigator. Orion Cavey observed coolly from where he leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Seems like a double standard. The tension in the room thickened. Kaida watched her crewmates carefully. After 17 years in cryo-sleep, they were all on edge, their bodies still adjusting to consciousness. Captain Vasiliev shot Orion a warning glance. We're grateful for the rescue, the captain amended. Our ship systems were failing. Another decade adrift and the cryo chambers would have lost power. You saved our lives. Vrisk's compound eyes gleamed. Yes, and now we must determine what to do with you. That night, or what passed for night in the perpetual illumination of the quarantine chamber, Kaida found herself unable to sleep. The artificial gravity felt wrong, slightly too light, making her movements awkward and bouncy. She found Orion similarly restless, staring through the transparent barrier at the stars beyond. They're afraid of us, he said without turning. Have you noticed? Kaida nodded. The way they maintain distance, the extra security measures. It's more than just quarantine protocol. One of their scientists was scanning me earlier. When I moved suddenly, he practically jumped out of his exoskeleton. Orion's laugh held no humor. I think they consider us dangerous. We are dangerous, came a voice from behind them. Dr. Matsuo approached, her steps too light in the reduced gravity. At least by their standards, I've been analyzing the environmental data from their ship. The Aelari evolved on a world with approximately 0.7 Earth gravity. Their atmospheric pressure is lower, radiation levels minimal. We're Deathworlders, Kaida realized, the term she'd overheard finally making sense. Precisely, Ilara confirmed. In their eyes, we're biological impossibilities. Creatures that evolved in conditions they would consider lethal. Captain Vasiliev joined their impromptu gathering, which makes us a curiosity at best, a threat at worst. Sir, Kaida hesitated. Do you think they'll help us repair the Helios? Let us continue our mission. The captain's expression darkened. I don't know. There's something they're not telling us about this conclave of theirs, and I'm concerned about their interest in Earth's coordinates. You think they mean us harm? Orion straightened, suddenly alert. I think, Vasiliev chose his words carefully, that we need to be prepared for any outcome. We're the first humans to make contact with alien intelligence. What happens next will define humanity's place in the galaxy. Elsewhere on the Aolari vessel, an emergency council was convening. Commander Vrisk faced the holographic projections of the High Council, his report causing ripples of concern among the assembled leaders. A death-world species with expansion ambitions, Counselor Jean summarized gravely. This confirms our worst fears about evolutionary divergence. They appear peaceful enough, Vrisk offered. So do hunting predators before they strike, another counselor countered. Their physiological capabilities alone make them dangerous. Twice our strength, denser bone structure, enhanced endurance, and adaptive immune systems. And you say they've developed interstellar travel despite their primitive technology? Yes, Counselor. Their determination is remarkable. The eldest counselor leaned forward, her ancient features grave. Then we have no choice. The protocols are clear. Quarantine their vessel, extract all information about their homeworld, and prepare a containment fleet. If these humans evolved on a death world, their entire species represents a potential threat to Conclave stability. You're proposing invasion? Vrisk asked, shocked. I'm proposing preemptive security measures, she corrected coldly. The Deathworlders must be contained before they spread further into the galaxy. As the Council continued its deliberation, none of them noticed the small maintenance drone hovering near the chamber's ventilation duct, or the fact that its transmission protocols had been subtly altered to relay their conversation directly to the quarantine chamber where the humans were held. They're going to attack Earth. Captain Vasilyev's words fell like stones in the quiet quarantine chamber. The crew of the Helios Dawn gathered around the small holographic projector, Kaida, had jury-rigged from salvaged components. The translation of the Aolari Council meeting played again, the alien voices rendered flat and emotionless by the crude software. This can't be happening, whispered communications specialist Pax Okoli. We've done nothing threatening. Our existence is the threat, Dr. Matsuo explained. From their evolutionary perspective, we shouldn't exist. Species from high-gravity, high-radiation environments with competitive ecosystems shouldn't develop the cooperation necessary for advanced civilization. So they're going to contain us because their theories are wrong? Security Chief Linnea. Voss scoffed, her muscular frame tense with anger. Billions of lives at risk because we don't fit their worldview. Vasilyev raised a hand for calm. We need to think strategically. Earth has no idea alien life exists, let alone that a hostile force is preparing to invade. They'll have no warning, no defense. And we're stuck in this quarantine cell, Orion added bitterly. Kaida, who had been silent until now, looked up from the circuit board she'd been examining. Maybe not. I've been studying their technology since we came aboard. Their systems are advanced, but predictable. They rely heavily on standardized protocols. What are you saying, engineer? Vasilyev asked. I'm saying, Kaida's eyes gleamed with determination, that I think I can hack their systems, not just communications, everything. Environmental controls, security barriers, even ship navigation. That's impossible, Pax objected. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. But their thinking isn't, Kaida countered. They've had no competition, no serious threats. The Conclave has been stable for millennia. Their security measures are designed for compliance, not to withstand deliberate sabotage. A slow smile spread across Linnea's face. We're the Deathworlders they fear. Let's show them why. Over the next 72 hours, as the Aolari vessel accelerated toward the nearest major conclave station, the crew of the Helios Dawn prepared, in secret. Kaida worked tirelessly, using the maintenance drones she'd reprogrammed to create backdoors into critical ship systems. Dr. Matsuo analyzed every scrap of biological data they could gather about the Aolari, identifying vulnerabilities. Linnea trained the crew in close-quarters combat techniques adapted to the lower gravity. Captain Vasilyev, meanwhile, maintained a facade of cooperation, engaging Commander Vrisk in lengthy philosophical discussions about the nature of civilization and freedom. "I understand your concern," Vasilyev told the Alari commander during one such conversation. "Encountering a species so different must be alarming." "It isn't personal," Vrisk replied, his compound eyes unreadable. "The Conclave exists to maintain balance. Species that evolve on Deathworlds develop aggressive tendencies. It's biological, imperative. And yet here we are talking peacefully. For now." Vrisk's mandibles clicked softly. "But your own history proves my point. Your engineer Novak's data chip contained historical records. Your species has spent most of its existence at war with itself." Vasilyev couldn't deny this. "We've fought our demons, yes, but we've also created art, music, literature. We've looked to the stars with wonder, not conquest." "A beautiful sentiment," Vrisk said almost sadly. "But the Conclave cannot risk the stability of 1,000 worlds on sentiment." As the commander left, Vasilyev caught Kaida's eye across the chamber and gave an imperceptible nod. The time had come. That night, as the ship's cycle shifted to reduced activity period, Kaida activated her makeshift control relay. Throughout the massive vessel, systems began to malfunction in seemingly unrelated ways. Environmental controls in unoccupied. Sections failed. Navigation sensors reported phantom anomalies. Security barriers flickered momentarily. The Alari crew, unaccustomed to systematic failure, responded exactly as Kaida had predicted. They isolated systems, creating gaps in their security network. Within 20 minutes, the quarantine barriers deactivated and the crew of the Helios Dawn moved out. "Remember," Captain Vasilyev instructed as they gathered in the corridor, "minimal casualties. We're not here for revenge. We need to reach the communication array and warn Earth." They split into 3 teams. Linnea led the diversion team, creating chaos in the ship's lower decks. Dr. Matsuo headed for the research labs to retrieve their collected data on Conclave species and technology. Vasilyev, Kaida, Orion, and Pax made for the bridge. What they hadn't counted on was Commander Vrisk's foresight. "Did you really believe we wouldn't be monitoring you?" the Alari commander asked, calmly as security forces surrounded Vasilyev's team 3 corridors from the bridge. "That we haven't faced rebellions before?" Kaida felt her heart sink as more guards appeared, cutting off their retreat. "The difference," Vasilyev replied evenly, "is that those other rebellions weren't planned by Deathworlders." On his signal, Kaida triggered her final protocol. Throughout the ship, gravity plating surged to Earth normal levels. The sudden increase, a crushing 40% jump in gravitational force for the Alari, sent the unprepared aliens staggering to the floor, their lighter frames struggling against the increased pull. The humans, evolution's children of a higher gravity, world, moved forward unhindered. Commander Vrisk had never experienced such physical strain. The oppressive gravity crushed down on his exoskeleton, threatening to crack the protective plates that had evolved for a much gentler world. Around him, his crew collapsed, their limbs unable to support their body weight in these impossible conditions. Yet the humans moved with ease, even grace. Their muscular bodies, forged in Earth's crucible of higher gravity, radiation, and evolutionary competition, functioned normally while the Alari struggled to breathe. "This is what we are," Captain Vasilyev said, looking down at the immobilized commander. "Not monsters, not conquerors, survivors. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day, and we thrived. The Conclave will still come for your world," Vrisk managed, his breathing labored. "Perhaps," Vasilyev acknowledged. "But now they'll face an informed opponent." On the bridge, Kaida worked furiously at the ship's communication array, while Orion and Pax secured the few Alari officers still conscious. "I've accessed their faster-than-light communication network," Kaida announced. "It's incredible. instantaneous transmission across thousands of light years. "Can you send a message to Earth?" Vasiliev asked. Kaida shook her head. "Not directly, but I can broadcast on all emergency frequencies. Any human ships within 50 light years will receive it." "Do it!" Kaida activated the transmitter. "Attention all Earth vessels. This is Engineer Kaida Novak of the Helios Dawn. First contact with alien intelligence has been established. Hostile force known as the Galactic Conclave planning Earth invasion. Transmitting all available data on their technology and biology. Prepare defensive measures immediately." She attached the comprehensive files Dr. Matsuo had compiled about conclave species, along with technical specifications of their ships and weapons that she'd gleaned from the Iolari systems. "Message away," she confirmed. "Whether anyone receives it—" "Someone will," Vasiliev said with more confidence than he felt. In the 17 years they'd been adrift, humanity's exploration of space had surely expanded. Commander Vrisk, still pinned by the crushing gravity, gave a clicking laugh. "You've accomplished nothing. Your primitive species has no defense against conclave technology. Our ships can destroy worlds from orbit." "You're probably right," Vasiliev conceded. "But you've made one critical mistake." "And what is that, human?" "You assumed that because we evolved on a death world, we think like Deathworlders, that we'd be savage, ruthless, incapable of strategy." The captain smiled thinly. "You never considered that surviving a death world requires more than strength. It requires intelligence, cooperation, and adaptation." As if to illustrate his point, the ship's sensors suddenly blared an alert. On the audio view screen, a vessel appeared, sleek, predatory, and unmistakably human in design. "Impossible," Vrisk whispered. "The Artemis," Orion identified, his voice filled with awe. "She was 3 years behind us in the exploration grid. They must have picked up our distress signal, too." More ships appeared, dropping out of faster-than-light travel, an entire human exploration fleet that had been mapping the sector for the past decade. "You see, Commander," Vasiliev explained, "while your conclave was deciding our fate, humanity continued to reach for the stars. You're not dealing with a single lost ship anymore." The communication array activated, and a stern-faced woman appeared on screen. "This is Admiral Imara Kalu of the Earth Expeditionary Force. We've received the Helios Dawn's transmission and are prepared to render assistance. To the alien vessel, stand down or face immediate neutralization." For the first time, genuine fear flickered across Vrisk's alien features. "You don't understand what you're doing. The conclave encompasses 1,000 worlds." "And yet," Kaida observed quietly, "not one of those worlds produced people strong enough to stand in Earth-normal gravity." The human fleet surrounded the Elari vessel, their weapons primed. Within hours, Admiral Kalu's forces had secured the ship and transferred the Elari crew to containment quarters with adjusted gravity. In the Admiral's makeshift war room, the Elari vessel's former conference chamber, the leadership of both ships gathered to assess their situation. "Based on the data you've transmitted," Admiral Kalu said, reviewing the holographic displays, "we're facing an unprecedented threat. This conclave controls most of the charted galaxy." "But they've never faced humanity before," Linnea pointed out. "And they clearly underestimate us." "An advantage we should press," Orion agreed. Admiral Kalu nodded thoughtfully. "Captain Vasiliev, Engineer Novak, your actions have given humanity vital intelligence and a fighting chance. We need to capitalize on this opportunity before the conclave realizes their vessel is compromised." "What are you proposing?" Vasiliev asked. A slow, determined smile spread across the Admiral's face. "They want to bring war to Earth? I say we bring the fight to them first." Admiral Kalu's plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal, exactly the kind of strategy the conclave would never anticipate from a supposedly primitive species. "The conclave's strength is their unity and technological superiority," she explained to the assembled officers. Their weakness is complacency. They haven't fought a serious war in over 1,000 years. The holographic display showed the nearby Conclave outpost, a massive space station orbiting a gas giant. According to the data extracted from the Aolari ship, it served as the regional command center for Conclave operations in this sector. "We'll use the captured Aolari vessel as our Trojan horse," the Admiral continued. "A skeleton crew will pilot it to the station, ostensibly returning from their investigation of the human distress signal. Meanwhile, our fleet will remain hidden in the electromagnetic shadow of the gas giant's rings." Kaida studied the station schematics with growing excitement. Their defense systems are impressive, but predictable. They're designed to repel conventional attacks, not infiltration by a recognized friendly vessel. "Exactly," Admiral Kalu nodded approvingly. "Once aboard, our insertion team will secure the communication hub and send a galaxy-wide transmission using their own network." "What message?" asked Pax Okoli, who would be responsible for the transmission. "The truth," Vasilyev said simply. "That the Conclave leadership is planning an unprovoked attack on a newly discovered species. Many of the Conclave worlds may not support such aggression if they knew." "We're betting on internal politics?" Linnea sounded skeptical. "We're betting on creating enough controversy and delay to buy Earth time to prepare," Admiral Kalu corrected. "And while we're at it, we'll download every scrap of technological data we can access." The plan proceeded swiftly. The captured Aolari vessel, now manned by a mixed crew of Helios Dawn survivors and Admiral Kalu's best operatives, approached the massive Conclave station. Commander Vrisk, under close guard, was coached to respond to standard communications. "Exploration vessel Luminous Path. We've been expecting your return," came the station controller's transmission. "Proceed to Docking Bay 17. With Vrisk providing the necessary authentication codes, they were cleared through the station's formidable defensive perimeter without incident. As the ship docked, tension ran high among the human crew. "Remember," Captain Vasilyev briefed the insertion team one final time, "we're not here to start a war. We're here to prevent one. Secure the communication hub, transmit our message, and extract with the data. No unnecessary casualties." Linnea Voss, leading the security detail, checked her weapon, an Aolari stun projector modified to accommodate human strength. "What if they don't give us a choice, Captain?" Vasilyev's expression hardened. "Then you show them why Deathworlders are feared across the galaxy." The airlock cycled open, and they stepped onto Conclave territory, the first humans to set foot on an alien station. The Conclave representatives waiting to greet them froze in shock at the sight of the unfamiliar bipeds accompanying Commander Vrisk. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded a tall, crystalline being whose translucent body refracted light in hypnotic patterns. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. "Unknown biological contaminants detected," announced an automated system. "Security, protocols engaged." "So much for the element of surprise," Orion muttered. Linnea's team moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing the greeting party with stun blasts before they could react. "Move," she ordered, and the insertion team raced through the corridors toward the communication hub. They encountered surprisingly little resistance at first. The station's security forces, evolved for worlds far more hospitable than Earth, were unprepared for the humans' speed, strength, and tactical cohesion. The few who attempted to block their path were swiftly incapacitated. "They're not fighters," Kaida observed as they secured another intersection. "Their species never needed to be." In the station's control center, Counselor Jean watched the security feeds with growing horror. "How are they moving so fast in our standard gravity?" he demanded of no one in particular. "Their muscle density shouldn't allow such acceleration." "It's the Death World adaptation," a scientific advisor explained nervously. "Their species evolved under constant environmental pressure. They're physiologically superior in nearly every metric." "Seal all bulkheads," Jean ordered. "Initiate emergency protocols and contact the defense fleet immediately." But the humans had anticipated this response. While the main insertion team created a distraction, Kaida led a smaller technical group through the station's maintenance conduits, using the schematics they'd extracted from the Aolari vessel. "Almost there," she whispered as they crawled through a narrowing passage. "The main communication array should be just ahead." They emerged into a vast chamber dominated by a crystalline structure that pulsed with energy. The faster-than-light communication hub that connected this station to the entire Conclave network. "It's beautiful," Pax breathed, momentarily awestruck by the alien technology. "And now it's ours," Kaida said, moving quickly to the control interface. "Cover me." As she worked to bypass the security protocols, the station shuddered violently. Through the chamber's viewing ports, they could see Admiral Kalu's fleet emerging from hiding, engaging the station's defensive systems. "That's our signal," Kaida said grimly. The diversion started. Her fingers flew across the alien controls, applying the knowledge she'd gained from studying the Aolari systems. "I'm in. Pax, transmit the message, now!" Pax connected his prepared data packet to the array. Across thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy, communication systems suddenly activated with an unexpected priority transmission. The faces of Captain Vasiliev and Admiral Kalu appeared, addressing the assembled species of the Conclave directly. "People of the Galactic Conclave," Admiral Kalu began, her voice steady and resolute. "We are representatives of humanity, a species your leadership has condemned without trial or communication. We come to you not as conquerors, but as witnesses to an injustice that threatens the peace you hold dear." As the transmission continued, explaining the Conclave leadership's plans for Earth's containment and presenting evidence from their own records, Kaida focused on her secondary mission, downloading every scrap of technological data she could. "Access! Faster!" she urged the system as the progress indicator crawled forward. "We don't have much time." Outside, the battle intensified. The human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that shocked the Conclave defenders. Their tactics were unpredictable, their maneuvers executed with precision that belied their supposedly primitive origin. And throughout the galaxy, the message spread, impossible to contain. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage, and they had brought the fire of truth with them. The Conclave High Council chamber had never witnessed such chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds demanded answers, their voices creating a cacophony that threatened to shatter the chamber's famous acoustic perfection. The emergency session, convened within hours of the humans' galaxy-wide broadcast, had devolved into accusation and counter-accusation. "Is it true?" demanded the delegate from Viridia, their bioluminescent appendages flashing with agitation. Was the Council planning to attack an emerging species without provocation? "It was containment, not attack," Councillor Jean insisted, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's harsh lighting. "A precautionary measure against a potential threat." "A threat you manufactured," countered another delegate. "These humans responded to aggression with remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed the Cygnus outpost but chose communication instead." In a secure chamber several levels below, Captain Vasiliev, Admiral Kalu, and key members of their team watched the proceedings via a secured feed. Their infiltration team had accomplished its primary mission, transmitting the truth, before withdrawing to a defensible position. Now, surrounded by Conclave security forces but protected by a diplomatic standoff, they witnessed the impact of their desperate gambit. "It's working," Kaida said, watching the political meltdown with a mixture of hope and wariness. "The Conclave isn't as unified as its leadership claimed. Many of these species evolved in conditions similar to ours," Dr. Matsuo observed. "Not true death worlds, but challenging enough to create empathy for our situation." Admiral Kalu nodded, thoughtfully. "Empathy we can use, but make no mistake, we've only bought time, not peace. On the main view screen, a new figure approached the council's central podium, an elder Aelari, whose ornate exoskeleton marked her as one of the conclave's founding species representatives. "For 3,000 years," she began, her translated voice echoing through the chamber. "The conclave has maintained peace through understanding and cooperation. Today we stand at a crossroads. The humans, yes, these Deathworlders, have demonstrated qualities we claim to value: intelligence, restraint, and a willingness to communicate rather than destroy." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. "However," she continued, raising a multi-jointed limb for silence, "we cannot ignore the potential threat they represent. Their physiological capabilities, combined with their demonstrated technological ingenuity, make them unlike any species we have encountered." The chamber grew quiet as she delivered her verdict. "I propose a compromise. We will not invade their homeworld. Such action violates our founding principles. Instead, we will establish diplomatic relations. We will learn from them, and they from us. But," her compound eyes gleamed, "we will also prepare. If humanity proves to be the threat some fear, the conclave will be ready." The vote was swift and decisive. The proposed invasion was suspended, replaced by a cautious diplomatic initiative. Armed conclave vessels would still proceed to the human sphere of influence, not as conquerors, but as wary ambassadors. "It's not peace," Vasiliev said quietly as they watched the proceedings conclude. "But it's not war either." "It's opportunity," Admiral Kalu countered. "Look what we accomplished with a handful of ships and determination. Imagine what Earth can do with the technological data we've acquired and time to prepare." Kaida thought. Of the terabytes of conclave technology specifications, scientific principles, and star charts she had downloaded during their brief control of the communication hub, information that would advance human technology by centuries. "What now, Admiral?" she asked. "Now." Kalu's expression was resolute. "We negotiate our way home, and we prepare Earth for what's coming. Not just the conclave diplomatic fleet, but the reality of our place in the galaxy." 3 months later, as the Earth's orbital defense grid neared completion, incorporating modified conclave technology, Kaida stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned United Earth Defense Headquarters. Below, the sprawling facility hummed with activity as scientists and engineers worked to integrate the technological windfall from their first and turbulent contact with alien life. Captain Vasiliev joined her, his uniform now bearing the insignia of Earth's newly formed Diplomatic Corps. "The conclave delegation will arrive next week," he said without preamble. 17 species representatives, including Commander Vrisk. Kaida raised an eyebrow. "Vrisk? I'm surprised they're sending him. Apparently his experience with humans makes him valuable, despite his initial approach." Vasiliev's lips quirked in a half-smile. "He's requested you be present at the negotiations." "Me? Why?" "I believe his exact words were, to remind us what Deathworlders are capable of when provoked." The captain's expression grew serious. "You know this isn't over, Kaida. The conclave has existed for millennia. They think in the long term. This diplomatic mission could be genuine, or it could be reconnaissance for something else." "Either way," she replied, gazing at the stars visible through the transparent dome, "they'll find us ready." From a simple SOS that had broadcast for 17 years into the void, humanity had been thrust onto the galactic stage. They had faced the prospect of extinction and turned it into opportunity. They had taken fire from the stars and forged it into a beacon, a warning to any who would threaten Earth and its children. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. On the eve of the conclave delegation's arrival, Admiral Kalu addressed the United Earth Council. Her words, broadcast to every corner of human civilization, would be remembered for generations to come. "We did not ask for this confrontation. We did not seek to challenge the established order of the galaxy. But when threatened with annihilation, for the crime of evolving on a world that forged us strong, we did what humans have always done. We adapted, we innovated, and we survived. The Conclave has existed for 3,000 years, but they have never encountered a species born of Earth's crucible. Let this be known throughout the stars. Humanity comes in peace, but we will not be threatened, we will not be contained, and we will not be denied our place among the stars. As she finished speaking, the defense grid detected the first conclave, vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The Deathworlders stood ready to meet their destiny. The observation dome of the Terran Conclave Embassy Station offered a spectacular view of Earth and its newly constructed orbital platforms. Kaida Novak stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching a Conclave science vessel dock at one of the extended arms of the massive structure. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? A familiar voice asked. Kaida turned to see Orion, approaching, now wearing the formal uniform of Earth's Stellar Diplomatic Corps. That we went from nearly being exterminated to this? She gestured at the thriving interspecies installation. Every day, 5 years had transformed humanity's relationship with the galaxy. The initial tense diplomacy had gradually evolved into cautious cooperation, then genuine collaboration in select fields. Earth's defensive capabilities had expanded exponentially with adapted conclave technology, while human innovations, particularly in fields requiring physical resilience, had proven unexpectedly valuable to several conclave species. The Viridian delegation is requesting your presence, Orion informed her. Apparently, their bioengineering team has hit another roadblock with the radiation-resistant crops. Kaida smiled. They still can't accept that sometimes the solution is simpler than they think. As Earth's foremost expert on integrating human and conclave technologies, Kaida had become a reluctant celebrity among both human and alien scientific circles. The very traits that had made humans feared, their adaptability, their resilience, their evolutionary response to adversity, had become their greatest diplomatic assets. Admiral Kalu wants an update on the Joint Defense Initiative before the Council meeting, Orion added as they walked through the station's curved corridors. Tell her the integration is proceeding ahead of schedule. The Conclave energy distribution. Principles work perfectly with our tactical response systems. They passed several aliens in the hallway, a pair of crystalline Zexians discussing something with animated gestures, an Alari engineer consulting a holographic schematic, and even a massive Drovakian whose species evolved on one of the few worlds nearly as challenging as Earth. Each acknowledged the humans with the respect due to valued, if still somewhat feared, allies. In the station's central chamber, representatives from 27 conclave worlds and all of Earth's nation-states were gathered for the 5th anniversary of the Earth Conclave Accord. At the center of the assembly stood Captain, now Ambassador, Vasiliev, and surprisingly, Commander Vrisk. The years had changed them both. Vasiliev's hair had grayed at the temples, and lines of responsibility etched his face deeper. Vrisk's exoskeleton had developed the iridescent patina of Aelari middle age, and one of his limbs had been replaced with a cybernetic prosthesis, a human design adapted for Aelari physiology. The first 5 years of any relationship are often the most difficult, Vasiliev was saying as Kaida and Orion entered. Our peoples began with mistrust and fear. Today we stand as partners in an expanding universe. Not equal partners, came a voice from the Conclave delegation, one of the hardliners who still viewed humanity with suspicion. The balance of knowledge remains disproportionately in the Conclave's favor, as does the balance of territory, countered Admiral Kalu smoothly. Yet humanity has honored every provision of the Accord, despite having less to gain in the short term. Commander Vrisk stepped forward, his prosthetic limb gleaming under the chamber lights. When I first encountered humans, I saw only threat, biological impossibilities from a world that should have crushed the development of intelligence. I recommended containment out of fear. His compound eyes swept the assembly. I was wrong. Not about humans being dangerous. They are far more dangerous than even I imagined. A tense silence fell over the chamber. But danger is not inherently destructive, Vrisk continued. In the 5 years since first contact, human innovations have saved 16 conclave worlds from natural disasters. Their medical techniques have been adapted to treat conditions previously considered terminal among 12 different species. Their unique perspective, born of evolution on a death world, has identified weaknesses in our defenses that could have been catastrophic if discovered by genuine enemies. He turned to face Kaida directly. Engineer Novak once told me that surviving a death world requires more than strength. It requires intelligence, cooperation, and adaptation. The evidence suggests she was correct. Ambassador Vasilyev stepped forward. The accord has served both our interests well, but today we propose its evolution. Earth formally requests admission to the Galactic Conclave, not as subjects, not as protectorates, but as full members with all rights and responsibilities therein. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Such a request was unprecedented. No species had ever joined the conclave without centuries of observation and gradual integration. Impossible, declared the Zexian representative. The protocols are clear. New species require a minimum integration period of 100 standard cycles. Protocols designed for species that evolved under conditions similar to your own, Admiral Kalu pointed out. Humanity has demonstrated in 5 years what others might take centuries to prove, that we can contribute meaningfully to galactic stability while maintaining our unique identity. The debate raged for hours, with factions forming and reforming around different proposals. Through it all, Kaida observed the subtle dynamics at play, the species that had benefited most from human innovation supporting their petition, those who still feared Earth's potential opposing it vigorously. Finally, the eldest Alari representative, the same one who had proposed the original compromise 5 years earlier, raised her limb for attention. The conclave has endured for 3 millennia by adapting to new realities, she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. We feared the Deathworlders would bring chaos. Instead, they have brought innovation, perspective, and yes, strength, when needed. Perhaps the true lesson of Earth is that the crucible of adversity forges not just physical resilience, but moral character as well. She turned to the human delegation. I move that the integration protocols be modified. Earth will be granted provisional membership, with full rights to be conferred upon completion of a 20-cycle observation period, provided no major violations occur. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. As the assembly dispersed, to prepare for the formal ceremony, Kaida found herself face-to-face with Commander Vrisk. You've come a long way from planning our extinction, she observed with a wry smile. As have you from sabotaging my ship, he countered, his mandibles clicking in what she had learned was the Aelari equivalent of amusement. I have a confession. Engineer Novak, when we first detected your primitive SOS beacon, I nearly ignored it. Standard protocol would have been to record the signal and continue our survey mission. What made you stop? Curiosity, Vrisk admitted. The signal was so persistent, broadcasting for so long despite minimal power. It suggested a determination I found intriguing. Kaida laughed softly. So the fate of 2 civilizations turned on your whim? Perhaps. Or perhaps it was inevitable that our peoples would meet. His compound eyes studied her with alien intensity. The universe has patterns beyond our comprehension. Maybe Deathworlders and the Conclave needed each other. You to challenge our complacency, we to temper your expansion. Later, as Earth's flag was officially added to the Conclave's Grand Assembly Hall, Positioned not alphabetically but in order of admission, the newest and most controversial member, Kaida stood with her original crewmates from the Helios dawn. When we launched, Captain Vasiliev mused. We hoped to find habitable planets. Instead, we found a galaxy teeming with life and civilization. And nearly started an interstellar war, Orion added dryly. Almost got ourselves exterminated, Linnea. Corrected, created the strongest defensive alliance in human history, Dr. Matsuo countered. Advanced our technology by centuries, Pax contributed. Kaida watched as the Earth flag, redesigned to represent the entire planet rather than any single nation, settled into place among the hundreds of others. We did what humans always do, she said quietly. We adapted. We survived. And eventually we thrived. From a simple SOS signal broadcasting alone in the void, to first contact, to conflict, to an uneasy peace, to genuine alliance, humanity's journey to the stars had been neither simple nor easy, but they had brought their fire with them, not just the fire of defiance that had allowed them to stand against impossible odds, but the fire of innovation, of cooperation, of the unquenchable spirit forged in Earth's crucible. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy was better for it. In the vast archives of the Galactic Conclave, there exists a special exhibit, a battered emergency beacon recovered from an ancient human vessel called the Helios Dawn. Beside it, a simple plaque reads, "The signal that changed the galaxy. May we always remember that strength without wisdom leads to destruction, but together they forge the stars themselves."